was the dead of night. Café Spyhouse stood still at a prominent junction in the neighborhood. Pin drop silence hung in the air, and it felt like quite an unusual night. The heating system groaned through the pipes as it traveled through the walls of Pilu's house. Pilu's house made a 90-degree angle with Café Spyhouse. With its red brick facade, it was her second favorite place on earth. The first, of course, being Café Spyhouse. That night, Pilu woke up and walked to the window. She saw a large banyan tree growing right outside her house. This was so odd. She rubbed her eyes to make sure it was real and said, "Oh, whoa, where did this come from? I don't think it was there this morning. I walk to Spyhouse every day and I did that this morning and I am pretty sure this wasn't there. What a curious matter." She thought to herself and went outside to inspect it. She cautiously walked out of the building and towards the tree. The tree was dripping with water as though it had rained like in the tropics. It had that sweet smell of soil and the feeling of torrential rains, like it had rained the whole of last week and this week and today and this evening. Wow. It was cold and moist, and she almost felt guilty for being there when everyone else was indoors, snuggled in bed with their loved ones. But it was only August, she thought, hot and sultry while the summer raged on in her neighborhood. Why does it feel like the monsoons under this tree? She wondered. Lost in thought, she suddenly felt a surge of nausea, but she ignored it. She had eaten a whole pot of soup that night, and the kind of foodie that she was, she blamed it on that as usual. So she drew closer. She noticed roots hanging in midair that were growing out of the branches. In different shades of brown, black, grey, blue, pink, purple, and green. Wow, these young roots looked determined to grow and swung in midair. Roots growing from its branches? Then what does it have growing under the soil? She inspected. Roots there too. Wow, quite a rooted tree this one, she thought. And her attention moved to the bark. Wow, what a sensational bark. Or should we call it a scent-sational bark? Oh yes, a scent-sational bark. It smelled divine. It smelled heavenly and delicious at the same time. Have you ever smelled, those incense sticks that smell so good that you want to eat them just to consume this entirety of the smell? The more she looked, the bark revealed itself more. Just look at those cuts and crevices and oozing sap and crawling ants. These hard-working ants on the anthill and the dry wood just hanging off its skin. Pilu was fascinated by her new muse. The nausea wasn't getting any better. How can a pot of soup stir up this big a storm in my stomach? Ugh. She felt like she had been there for a few hours. The cafe is also where time never passes, she thought to herself, making these comparisons. Our dear Pilu would often sit at the cafe all by herself, longing for a distant land she didn't quite know where. Her eyes would swell with tears of emptiness, even though she had everything in the world that you could think of. Friends, a home, people to love who loved her back, a family, a dog and a cat. Life was great. But she would still feel alone at times. Now, with this new tree in the picture, she was really looking forward to showing this muse to her coffee shop friends. After going rather adrift, Pilu decided to come back to the present and shook away these banal thoughts. The canopy. The canopy was so large that it could easily fit her whole family and friends under it. And just as she was thinking that, she heard people.
ठीक आहे देशांचं ठीक आहे पण इव्हन भारतात सुद्धा हिमालय असे प्रचंड डोंगर आपल्या समोर जेव्हा उभे असतात आणि आपण ज्या लोकांबरोबर असतो त्या क्षणी त्या लोकांबरोबर एक वेगळंच नातं जुळतं माहितीये तुला काय वाटतं
People. She looked around to see, but there was no one.
ज्या लोकांना
But she listened closer, and there were people. She wasn't sure if this was the nausea or this sinking feeling, or was this for real? Pretty sure she heard them. She heard them open their little lunch boxes and fill their hungry stomachs while they chatted about the weather in this new land, the tall mountains and the deep valleys they had traversed, the muted colors of this brand new neighborhood. She listened patiently to their stories like a fly on the wall.
सर्वात आवडता भाग आपल्या जगातला खरं सुंदरच म्हणजे त्या झाडाखाली बसून इतकं छान वाटतं जरा म्हणजे एकदम घरची आठवण येते असं छान आणि एकतर हे वडाचं झाड म्हणजे
By now, Pilu's nausea had reached stirring heights. But she held on to the bark of the tree for support and got even closer and closer. She missed a step and stumbled over a piece of rock. She thought she fell with a loud "ta!" But she hadn't. The world started spinning into oblivion. I think she heard bells. Bells? No, wait. She thought she heard bells. No, howls. Owls? Voices? No. Crashing waves like a tsunami that had haunted her dreams for years. A thunderbolt, a lightning, the monsoons and the winds and waves and volcanoes. She couldn't tell anymore. Before she knew it, her head hit the ground in slow motion. Ow! What is happening? She exclaimed. The haze settled down. Her nausea had magically disappeared. She looked at the tree with her starry eyes and she pinched herself. There, standing before her at the foot of the banyan tree, had appeared a little temple. The bark of the tree was hollow and was home to a little temple. She looked closer and realized there were words engraved on the temple. Bow before Saraswati, goddess of wisdom, art, and music. She had read once in a book that banyan trees lived for hundreds of years and wondered how many years this tree and this temple had been rooted here. The temple was covered in yellow and red, passionate powder of faith and belief, and bright yellow marigold flowers lay at God's feet. Oh, they smelled divine. All these smells made her feel the same way that the smell of coffee from Spyhouse would make her feel from across the street. It was quite late, or even early morning. There was a dim glow in the sky. She suddenly remembered that she had been outside for quite some time and she should head back home before everyone wakes up. She gave the whole thing a one last look, this marvelous spectacle, and walked back to bed, super excited about the next day when she would sit at the cafe Spyhouse window, admiring the grand, beautiful, dramatic big banyan tree.